Hey, before I start this next video, I'd like to give a plug to the TARDIS. He used to do videos here on YouTube, closed his account, then opened up a new account. So I'd like to give him a plug and a warm welcome back. His name's Rob Pepper. He's going by Bland Humanoid now. He's out of Ireland. Good guy, actually the only person out of the community here that I've actually gamed with before. Very good game master. So he does reviews on various books, smattering of different things. He has some really obscure videos in his arsenal there, and I see he's really restocking his channel. So you want to check him out for that, and he also has a lot of play ideas and advice. He knows what he's talking about, and you definitely, if you like the RPG videos, you definitely would want to give him a shot. This video is going to be nominally a response to Aaron's video about backgrounds. I think you raised some good points there, Aaron, and I generally like the video, and I'd like to also thank Aaron for the number of video responses he's given me in the past week or so. So I wanted to hit you back with one of my own. Now, I definitely feel you what you're saying. You know, you have to get the variety. This is the way you like to play Warhammer. It's not the way you want to play every game. I can definitely respect that and get with that. I think the characters like that, I think they come off a lot like characters you end up playing in a con. I haven't been in a con in over a decade, I think, but I kind of feel that it's that pre-generated, although this is from DICE and what the designer put together in the book, but it still has that pre-generated feel to it where you haven't really made the character. I think that a good role player should easily be able to handle a character that he has not put together with maybe 5 minutes of time before the game. Okay, this is my stuff, this is what I can do. This is weave a personality together in there. And I think that makes for a fine character, and I definitely understand. You want variety, you want to have things different. You don't want it to get into a rut there with your gaming. So that that definitely makes sense to me. I've seen that side. I've played Warhammer like once or twice. I have, and it's been a long time, so I have so little information on that game system from first-hand experience that it's not worth even mentioning. But that style, it does seem like it would be a bit difficult for me to get into a long campaign. In a long campaign, I mean, probably a minimum of like 50 game sessions, a good year's worth of playing, that it would be a little limiting, a little regretful to not have had the ability to design a character. If you're playing something 10 game sessions, maybe a little more than 10 game sessions, what I would call, just a shorter game, or even if it's just a 1 or 2 shot deal, it doesn't really make a difference, I guess. But I definitely come from the school of I like to create my character, but I also like to consult with the game master. I want to make sure the character works in the game master's world and that my background doesn't pose problems. When I initially started running my first, real game, so it would have been the end of my junior year in high school. I ran Ravenloft. The game lasted almost 5 years. It went over very well. I still have people talk about this game all the time. I'd run games before that lasted months and such, but this is the first real concerted effort that I'd made towards the game, and it really represented a pivotal evolution point in my maturity and mentality in terms of being able to handle players in games. I mean, I'd have over 10 players sometimes in a game, which itself is a nightmare. But I would like to talk about what I did then, and I would go for the written up backgrounds. The longest I had was, I think, 17 pages typed someone gave me. I definitely didn't ask for that much, but it is my buddy Nate Shikosius, a character he made, Zadok, and he put together a tremendously long background. Now, I would give people experience points for putting together backgrounds, so when there's experience points to be awarded, people are more apt to do what you request, and people did. Time and time again, they put backgrounds together for stories, for characters, but there would always be sort of a underlying large. This probably has to do with the fact that this was high school, early college, so mostly teenagers, although there were people that were actually much older than myself. We had one guy, I was like 16, and one guy in the group from the very beginning to the very end, he was Ken Jones, easily 10 years older than me. I think 11, 12 years older than me, that played in the group and found it enjoyable. And there were other people in their 20s when I was a teenager playing in that group. And they put together backgrounds, and the backgrounds were good enough, I suppose. Sometimes a bit stock, a bit cliche, but there would always be that sort of grubbing for power. I need to put my character over, have this special magic item. Well, I'll put it in the background, so it kind of has to already be for my character. Or, they're trying to get a special Pegasus for the character or something like that. And I try to roll with it and go along with that. Ravenloft, one great thing about it is you can really accommodate for a lot in terms of what characters can do and where they're from. One of the great aspects of running a Ravenloft game. Now, I've gotten completely away from that. I think it's actually a waste of time to spend the time writing down those sort of backgrounds. I'd seen some people do it, and I said, well, it seems like a good idea to get people thinking about their background of the character, and that is a good idea. But I think it's a lot of effort that's wasted. Someone like 3 months ago wanted me to get in a game and write a background for a character. I was like, are you kidding? I'm not doing that, and I didn't. And I definitely don't regret that decision. But that's something I would definitely recommend not doing. I don't think you get your mileage, and the player gets their mileage out of that. What I like to do in terms of the players, I'll have the player come over and we'll sit down. Sometimes it could even be up to maybe, almost a year before I run the game, because I do an extraordinary amount of planning. And I'll say, okay, what do you want to play? Let's build your character. And then they'll get their notebook, they'll take the character, they'll build it out, and we'll go over a bunch of background things in terms of what they know, the gods they know, the place they're from. And then I'm going to use the example of Forgotten Realms, because the last 2 games that I've run are Forgotten Realms. And my players didn't necessarily know too much canon lore about Forgotten Realms. Some did, some didn't, some knew nothing. And I discuss, okay, well, your character knows these gods and these goddesses. This is what you know about them. This is what your character knows about the local area. I'd have them maybe even make a few rolls, depending on what knowledges they'd bought for their character. And then there would be, a little back and forth bartering. Okay, if you want your character to be this race, this sort of person, you'd probably be from here, and then that would start filling in details so that it's not just created in a vacuum or void, but it reflects the actual world, and thus the character itself is going to be far more entertaining and reflective of what the world is. Now, for example, if you're from Tilverton, there are going to be some different things you're going to know, some different things you're going to learn, some different things you might not. At Tilverton in this time period, you really might not like orcs and goblins. If you're from Battledale, you might have some serious problem with drow elves. You're from Featherdale, you might be a farmer. You're from out there in the middle of the Elven Court, you might know all sorts of things about animals and having a tracker. If you're out from the Moon Seas, you may be a miner and have dealt with all these gems and such. So this is some things you should probably look to represent in terms of skill points, so your character makes sense from your region. And these are details I think you should put in there. For me, when I'm building a character, I like to think, and I'll use a character, say from a modern setting, for example. I think that's going to make it a little easier to describe. Now, I'm going to determine what my character's first name is, middle name is, last name is, and before I do that, I'm actually going to piece together the ethnicity. Okay, maybe the character is 25% Irish, 25% Cherokee, and 50% German. Okay, so I'm going to use that reflectively and trying to come up with a name and make sure that the last name makes sense for the ethnicity on his father's side. I'm going to determine some basic things about the character's psychology. I'm going to determine, what my character's favorite color is, what handed he is, what kind of women he likes, what kind of food he likes, how much he likes food. Is he a smoker? Does he like drinking? How moral is this person? How much of a libido does he have? What things does he like to do when he's not doing whatever the thing about the game is? Does a guy like water skiing, hand gliding? Does he like riding trains and rummaging through thrift stores for old novels? What does the guy like to do? And I like to put more detail into those sort of things than just background. I also like to know what kind of family he was from, who were his parents, what are the details on his brothers and sisters, or these people out there, because those are sort of NPCs that you can definitely bring in, and what other sort of NPCs has he dealt with. I think these details give you a lot more life for your character. This might seem daunting and overwhelming to some people. Something that I can actually knock out relatively quickly. I think that, if you think about it, you try to make the person the more real, they're going to have those ties, and that adds a lot of flavor to the character. So I think that's definitely something to think about in terms of doing backgrounds. And also, Aaron, you mentioned about having, not liking to play with people that aren't experienced gamers or that you haven't taught how to game. And I definitely like to play with people that I have not, or people that I've taught to play as well. I think that once you get that style customization, it's really a good thing. I like to call it the catching and skinning. Just pulling the fish out of the water, getting it ready, and you have that person there. They're plugged into your style. Sometimes some of these players, they won't even play anyone else's games. They're like, I don't like how other people handle it. So I think that's definitely a point in there that we have an agreement. But that's how I like to handle background and how I like to spend that time. I think you get a lot more value out of doing some preludes, getting to know what the character is, and make sure that you're flexible enough with your game master that your background doesn't overwhelm, that you don't, I have to have this. Find out what is going to make sense in their game so the game master can use it, can work more with it. I liked some of the things you mentioned, Aaron, about having background plot hooks for characters. I like to make sure to do that too. But don't feel, to game masters out there, do not feel like you have to have a background plot hook for every character. If you can use them, great. If it's just not good stuff, if it's not A or even B material, just don't use it. Every character doesn't have to have background stuff worked in. Some can, some might not. Might be part of that character's thing to make it special. You work a ton of their background stuff into the story, and that is going to add to the flavor of the game. If you're running that prelude, that beginning stuff, work some of those characters from the preludes back into the story, maybe the 9th session in, the 20th session in, and slowly build things up that way. But that's what I like to do with backgrounds. That's how I like to spend the time.